Hello, Shiver Seekers. Are you ready to follow us into the unknown? I'm Cynthia.
And I'm Stephanie. You found the dark oak. Today I'm going to take you into one of the most intriguing cases I think I have ever researched, the Galapagos Affair.
Welcome to the Dark Oak, the mystery podcast with purpose. Each month through our charity, the Branch of Hope Foundation, we give a portion of earnings from our Patreon and our sponsorships to a nonprofit related to the first episode of the month. That's today. To find out more, stick around to the end of this episode, check out our website, thedarkoak.com, or head over to our Instagram, The Dark Oak Podcast.
Well, we're doing it, Cynthia. Here we are. Here we are on video. You guys ask, and we're trying to provide. We've already realized I may need some better lighting in my little area here. Cynthia looks like a daisy, a fresh daisy, looking so gorge.
As always.
Yeah, but guys, we're going to try to make this our new norm. We're going to be some talking heads on YouTube for you guys.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's going to be completely unedited, right? That's unedited because editing twice, we already edit their normal episodes. Editing twice is just outside of our wheelhouse right now. But if you like that behind the scenes footage, this might be kind of fun. Some of my favorite podcasts put out unedited versions on YouTube, and I love it. I love seeing the real deal. So there you go.
Yeah, so we're still going to edit the audio, but the video is going to be unedited. So I don't know. Is that like two faces of Stephanie and Cynthia? I don't know. I don't feel like we edit out too much. It's mostly just like stutters or burps or kids interrupting or, whatever it is. So you're going to get that. You're going to get the real side of us. I mean, the edited version that you get on audio is still us. Those are still our real comments. And so the content isn't really going to change as much. You're just going to see some of our foibles and slip ups and, our real life, both of us that are in our houses right now. And you just never know what kind of mayhem is going to happen. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully, at least on our first time, we don't have that hanging over us as well. So anywho, I'm pretty excited. Again, this is a super fun case. Cynthia, do you want to go ahead and... Oh, no, we already did the Welcome to the Dark Oak. So... Oh, no, we didn't. Yeah. Why don't you welcome people to the Dark Oak, Cynthia?
No, I did that.
Oh, you did do that. Okay, there we go.
Well, we're starting off strong.
I just wanted to make sure people have been properly welcomed. So look how well you did that. You just slipped it right in. And now I remember you doing it now that you said it. But,
I mean, I can do it again if you loved it that much, but no.
No, you just did a wonderful, graceful job. It was just seamless. It was seamless, Cynthia. I think I was thinking about this case when I was like, it's the most intriguing case. I'm like, it really is. I'm thinking of all the different pieces and parts. So we talked about this just briefly when we sat down, but you are not familiar with this Galapagos Affair story, right? Like what I'm going to tell you.
I am not, and I'm super excited when you tell me it's intriguing. But I'm not familiar with it at all. I've never even heard of it.
Okay. Well, I hadn't really either. It was one day I was kind of on my own, and I wound up watching a documentary that was released in 2014 by the name of The Galapagos Affair. And it's actually The Galapagos Affair, Satan Came to Eden.
Oh.
Which is even more salacious. So we'll add that in there.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. Okay.
Yeah. And it's come up. So there... At the time, so it's in the 1930s that this happened, and everyone was really great. All the adults on the Galapagos Islands that took place in this story were all really great about journal entries and correspondence back to the mainland and back to Europe, because all of these settlers were German descent. They were all from Germany, which is also kind of interesting. But that's how we know a lot about what happened there. So a lot of these journals were published under the writer's name. Like they published their own works right after this happened in the 30s. And then several other stories kind of came out of it, but it really kind of culminated in 1983 when all of them were kind of combined in a comprehensive book. Now, one of the characters, not characters, I mean, one of the people, her name was Dora Staunch. She published hers under the name of Satan Came to Eden. And so that's how they kind of like when they put them all together in the comprehensive book, that's how we got the name. So anyway, this is a very long-winded way to say in 1983 is where we get the real full picture when this author put everything together. And then from there had been this documentary, the 2014, and there was a for real movie about this made in 2024 that I didn't know existed either. And we're talking about like an all-star cast, like with Jude Law.
What's it called?
I mean, like, it's called Eden. Just Eden is what it's called.
Okay.
But on Rotten Tomatoes, it got like 60%. So I don't know if the movie is that great. And it's loosely based on the story. The documentary, though, that I watched, it's all their writings, and it has video and pictures of them, like of the people on the island, even back in the 40s or 30s, even back in the 30s. There we go. I mean, into the 40s as well, but back in the 30s. So it's really cool. So if you want to go watch the 2014 one, I absolutely encourage you to do it. Even on Rotten Tomatoes as a documentary, it got like 85%. And I would strongly recommend it. The reason I'm kind of encouraging you to go to that one is one, I do think it's the most educational of all of them. Like it's closest to the real story because it was based on that comprehensive book that was put out in 83. But I'm encouraging you to do it because you do have to purchase it. I'm sorry. You do have to purchase it either on Amazon Prime or Apple TV, but I literally purchased it for $3.
Okay.
So it's not like a big purchase, but I know I went over, the two-parter that we just put out. Anyway, there was some feedback
Christina
that
Whitaker.
Christina Whitaker, thank you. That her story, you know, that documentary that I kept referring to, it's, you know, behind like a paywall. Mm-hmm. And so we had a couple listeners that were kind of frustrated about that, but I'm sorry. I don't know. You'll have to pay for this one, but it's like $3. So it's totally worth it because it's voiced over because their journal entries were read. I mean, we're talking about like Kate Blanchett, Diane Kruger, Connie Nielsen. So it's totally worth a watch. So anyway, I digress. I feel like I've talked about that way too much, but highly recommend. Before we get into this, I think I'm going to start it in a way that Agatha Christie would. I think that's how I'm going to do this story. We've talked about Agatha Christie a few times, but I feel like I'm going to start with the high suspense part, and then let's go into the whodunit part.
Okay.
So in March of 1934, the following journal entry was made. Quote, "We continued to suffer under this oppressive drought, and for months we haven't seen a soul but for Heinz Wittmer, who comes for his weekly visits. There is an atmosphere of gathering evil closing in upon the island. 10 days ago, Friedrich and I were resting in the stillness of the intense heat, when all at once a long shriek gashed the silence. It was an outcry of such panic and terror that it was hardly human, and yet it was a woman's voice. It froze the marrow in our bones. We expected to hear footsteps rushing down the path towards us, but no one came. And I said, perhaps the drought is playing havoc on our nerves. The next day was the day when Wittmer usually called, but he did not come. Then yesterday, Margaret Wittmer appeared instead. She was not with her husband, but with Lorenz, and she told us the strangest story." End quote.
What a beautiful writing. How beautiful.
All of it is.
Yeah.
All of it is. And I will tell you, I'm going to read some pretty like thick quotes, like some big quotes, but they're so well done. I was like, I can't imagine paraphrasing any of this. It's so good.
Right.
So let's start by just going over the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands are a small chain of islands in the Pacific Ocean off the western coast of Ecuador. They're also owned by Ecuador, and they are home to many interesting species of animals found nowhere else in the world. And because of this exclusivity, Charles Darwin used the Galapagos finches to inspire the theory of evolution. So that's how most people have heard of it. And of course, it's famous for the Galapagos tortoises, which can weigh up to 1,000 pounds and live 100 years or more. So amazing.
Well, I know all about the Galapagos tortoises from Schitt's Creek, my favorite TV show of all time.
Okay. So I am not an avid Schitt's Creek watcher, but I have in the past. Tell me what happens.
Ted, Alexis's boyfriend, has to go live on the Galapagos Islands to study the tortoises.
That's his job.
Well, he's a veterinarian. That's his dream. Stephanie, there was a waiting list. He waited for years.
I think there probably is. There probably is for these expeditions. I have a friend of my husband, Barton, who went on a Antarctica expedition, and the same thing. There was like a waiting list to be on one of these expedition vessels. Now, he's not a scientist. He just wanted to go. But he had to go on a research vessel because it's not like any other ones go. So I imagine it's probably pretty similar with the Galapagos, right?
I mean, yeah.
At least in this fictitious sitcom.
Oh, so it's real. It's real, Stephanie. These are my friends.
Sorry, I'm not trying to burst any bubbles today.
That's about all I know about the Galapagos Islands, but I know that much.
Well, in reference to tortoises, we have a tortoise here on our homestead.
Yeah.
So he's an African spurred tortoise, or a sulcata tortoise, and he is actually a species of the third largest tortoise behind the Galapagos tortoises. So, I mean, I'm just saying, yeah. He can also live, and I'm saying we actually don't know. It's young enough. We still don't know whether it's male or female. We'll probably know within the next year. I'm hoping female. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. But when we got him, he was tiny. Maybe the size of like a butter dish.
I remember.
Smaller. Yeah, he was tiny. He's pretty big now. I mean, bigger than the size of a dinner plate. And I remember when I was asking my kids, so we went up getting him from a rescue. Florida has this really great amnesty program. It's every so many months. And if you have any animals, specifically reptiles, that you can no longer take care of or are even illegal to own in the state, it's an amnesty program. You can just drop it off, no questions asked. And Florida Fish and Wildlife would rather you do that than let them go out in the wild and destroy all our ecosystem. So we registered through the amnesty program and said, if you ever get a sulcata tortoise turned in, because they're not native to Florida, so if anybody ever found one, they'd be turned in, we'd like to be able to adopt and keep them, in captivity. And sure enough, they called us about this little baby. But I told my kids before we adopted him, I said, guys, realized this tortoise could outlive me because they live 50, 75 years, depending on how well you take care of them. So I said, guys, this is going to be like in the will, like you guys are going to have to take care of this little guy. And they said yes. So it's going to turn into like one of my other children, I guess. But they need homes, and they're really not difficult to take care of. The burrowing is the biggest thing, making sure you have like a really contained area for them. But they're really fascinating creatures.
I love him. Cute little guy.
Yeah. He is really cute, and he's got a fun little personality too, which you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
So I can imagine these Galapagos tortoises, which live like 200 years. I imagine like the things they've seen, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and you're going to tell us more of what they've seen. I'm sure they've seen some stuff.
They've seen some things.
There's some jaded tortoises out there.
Well, I will tell you, the islands in the Galapagos are kind of a big draw. A big draw for people who want to live in solitude because, nobody lives out there, but also because the islands offer potable water. Oh. They're one of the few islands that have springs, and these springs are created mostly because of, rainwater, but there's drinking water there. So you could really make a living. I mean, not easy.
Sure.
Not easy to live on the land, but you could. You're not just surrounded by salt water.
Okay.
And in many contexts, the Galapagos are referred to as a paradise, but that's not exactly true. They're mostly rocky and hot and dry, and in many ways hospitable. But despite that, as you said, there are a big tourist attraction. But I think the takeaway is the Galapagos Islands are great to visit, not great to live on. Like, you don't want to be there forever. You want to go visit, you want to take your pictures, you want to talk about the glory of God's creation, and then you want to get back to the mainland kind of thing.
Like Florida.
Wait, you want to get back to Florida, or you want to get out of
No.
Florida?
Come here to visit. You don't want to live here.
I completely disagree. I mean, look at my hat. Look, it's Funshine Bear. We're like,
Is that who it is? I can't really make it out, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Again, I'm working on my lighting, Cynthia. Okay, you don't have to emphasize it, but so much criticism here.
I know.
Oh, I can't get close without you hearing me, so I'm gonna get close, but you won't be able to hear me on the mic.
I see it. It's cute. Okay, that's a Stephanie hat if I've ever seen one.
Funshine Bear.
Yeah. Yeah. Do they have a dark doomsday bear? Because that's the one I want.
Oh, you're you grumpy bear. Is that who you're? You grumpy. All right. Now, out of everything that I've told you, knowing all of that, Friedrich Ritter, Dr. Friedrich Ritter, at the age of 43 in July of 1929, decided he was going to leave his home in Germany and travel with his companion, Dora Staunch, to seek the solitude of the Galapagos for his permanent residence. Now, according to his later published writings, he hated the hustle and bustle of the city and kind of the rat race of it all. And I mean, I get it. I don't know that I'm willing to move to an uninhabited island to get away from it, but I mean, I get it.
Sure.
And he and Dora were friends, question mark. Even after researching this case for quite a while, I'm still not really sure how to define their relationship. I mean, they were definitely companions, and they definitely shared a very, integral viewpoints that were atypical from the time. She was also really disenchanted with German life, and she especially hated what she called the bourgeoisie idea of homemaking. Like, the idea of being a housewife was the worst thing that could ever happen to anyone. Like, the absolute worst thing. She literally called it like poison to the spirit.
Oh my gosh.
She hated that idea.
Okay, so I have my days.
Yeah, but Dora was, to her core, just so opposed to it.
Okay.
And here's the deal with you and me, is I think we get it from both sides. Like, I think there are pros and cons to both. I think there are pros and cons to being a stay-at-home mom and a stay-at-home wife. And I think there are pros and cons to being a mother and wife who works out of the home.
Sure.
I think there are benefits and drawbacks to both. In Dora's mind, there was absolutely zero good that could ever come from being a housewife. Like, to her, I mean, you might as well, fate worse than death, literally, for her.
Well, and that's quite progressive especially for that time frame. So
Exactly.
I think I would have loved her just because of her strong opinion about, sounds like a real feminist. And just, yeah, I'm interested to learn more about her.
Yeah. So she was all about, I can never lose my lust for life. And Frederick really sold that to her. Like, Dr. Ritter, he was like, that's what we're going to do at the Galapagos. Like, we're going to live as the idealists. We're going to be living in this paradise, just contemplating all the world's mysteries. And that's very appealing for someone who feels very stuck in this, as she called it, like bourgeoisie lifestyle. And remember, there were a lot of changes happening in Germany as well. Dr. Ritter had fought in World War I, which was awful. I mean, just awful. Death, 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 decay, horrible decision making. So I think that jaded him a lot. I think the rat race is part of it, but I think just humanity at its core, he was just over it. And Dora was like, yeah, I like that. I like what he's saying. So
And
these like-minded individuals.
it's Dora,
Go ahead.
not Dolores.
No, Dora.
Dora. Okay.
Dora. And it's actually spelled Dore, but it's German, so it's pronounced Dora. So if you ever see her name written anywhere, it's Dore, but it's pronounced Dora. So that's where I am. Yep, Dora. So again, these two like-minded individuals headed for the Galapagos. And this wasn't as idyllic as it may have sounded at first, because both of them left their spouses in the process.
Okay.
So Friedrich left his wife, Dora left her husband, and they just left. So again, it's a bit unclear to me what their relationship was. Like, they never referred to each other as lovers. And there was never really any insinuation. I mean, I don't know, maybe they were, but that wasn't the main focus of their relationship. Like, their main relationship with the main focus of their relationship was not sexual, it wasn't romantic. And Dora actually referred to Friedrich in a lot of her writings as her teacher and guide.
Okay.
So maybe it's more like teacher student. I don't know. It's a little enigmatic. And maybe we don't need to define it. Just for the purpose of the story, I'm trying to just tell you everything that I know.
Sure. But this was a permanent move. It wasn't like this. I'm assuming the spouses weren't like, oh yeah, sure, take a little breather. This was like I'm leaving you. This is a permanent move on both.
I am never coming back from the Galapagos ever again.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. That seems pretty permanent to me.
Sure.
And also insane, considering neither of them had ever even seen the Galapagos before. They just gave up their entire lives and just left.
And it's before the internet, when you could Google Galapagos Islands and
they
look at them.
Left. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like it.
Yeah. Now, a lot of what Dora and Friedrich believed focused mainly on the works of the 1880s philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who proposed that the fundamental driving force of life is the, quote, will to power, end quote. And it's a basic instinct for self-assertion, creativity, and dominance over oneself and one's environment. So it's not just about power over others, but also about mastering one's own drive and achievements. So it's really kind of being the master of your own destiny, if you will. He also predicted the fall of religion and encouraged everyone to create their own meaning and values. So basically living authentically. Authentically.
Authentically. I was like,
authentically.
Yeah.
I got there. I was like, why am I having a brain issue with that? So living authentically. There we go. So I think Dora and Friedrich, if you're going to look at it through that lens, I think they're doing that.
Sure.
I think they're doing that. And I think there's some positive there too. But in this particular documentary I watched, family members of Friedrich Ritter were interviewed, and they said, yeah, that's true. He did believe all of that, but also he just really hated people. So the truth may lie just somewhere in the middle. Like, it's easy to find something to hook on to justify your own feelings sometimes. So it's not to say that he didn't really try to mirror this philosopher, but, I think people naturally gravitate towards things that seem to back up what they're already feeling.
Sure.
What they're already feeling and thinking. So, anyway, and again, after experiencing what he did during World War I don't know that I necessarily blame him, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would be a big fan of humanity either after experiencing some of the things that they did. So, now, regardless of all that, on July 4th, 1929, Dora and Friedrich sailed from Amsterdam on a 4-week journey to Ecuador and then waited a month to get a boat to the Galapagos. The Galapagos is made up. What you got?
Oh, I was just thinking man travel back then, you know? It's already been 2 months, we're not even there yet.
Yes. Again, this is why I think this is so crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy. Now, the Galapagos is made up of 18 main islands. In the 1930s, 2 were inhabited. It was the island of San Cristobal, which housed an outfit of Ecuadorian military, because it was the large island that's closest to Ecuador. And then there was Santa Cruz, which had a few houses dotted around the coast. But Friedrich and Dore headed for the island of Floreana, meaning their closest neighbors would be an over 60-mile boat ride away.
Wow.
If you're looking for solitude, I think they found it.
I mean, doesn't it sound really romantic though? I mean, it sounds really nice. Of course, they're going to get there and there's no place to live. There's no house. There's no, running water other than the springs and such. So I'm romanticizing it, I know, but man, it sounds really glorious.
Again, go visit, but don't stay. Like that's the gist. I'm not saying don't go. I want to go very much so. Even after hearing the story, I actually want to go even more now, but I don't want to live there.
I don't know. I remember, what is that movie? It came out when we were kids, Brooke Shields, where these 2 kids are on this
The Blue
island.
Lagoon.
Blue Lagoon. So I
Yeah.
watched that, when I was, I don't know, 12 or so. And I just remember thinking, like, what? This is the most romantic thing I've ever seen. Like, this would be the most amazing life. So there is this little part of me that's like, I don't know, maybe I'd stay. I got to be with a handsome guy. My
Well, I was going to say there were things in that movie that make it sound appealing.
Andy's got to come with me, but kind of.
I also need to look like Brooke Shields. I also need to look like Brooke Shields if I'm going to be in that circumstances.
Yeah.
All right. So when they got there, they found the coast because, again, think about it. They've literally never even seen the Galapagos. Sure. They've never even seen it. So they get there. They found it to be a barren, rocky, volcanic wasteland.
Oh,
it took them an hour walk into the interior before they finally found this freshwater spring and they found some rich vegetation. Now, the couple truly, when they found this spring, think about after their 2-month trip, everything's romantic and idealized. They finally get to this. They see this lush landscape, all these beautiful green vines and bushes, and they literally thought they had found Eden. Yes. They thought, this is it. Nothing can get better than this. It was complete peace and solitude, and they decided to build their little dwelling in this area, and they decided to call it Friedo, which was a mix of their 2 names. So Dora and Friedrich. So Friedo is what they decided to call their little homestead, their little dwelling that they decided to make. So they immediately got to work building the shelter and farming the land. And for Friedrich and Dore, this was especially important because they were both vegetarians out of principle. So there was no hunting on the island for them. It was only farming of the land and eating whatever was grown on the land. So they started planting fruit trees and a vegetable garden, and they did have chickens, but they only used them for eggs.
Okay.
They found the work very hard and challenging. I mean, I think that would probably go without saying. But again, they're at the very beginning. So they said it felt like accomplishing a dream, though.
Sure.
It's like a means to an end. You feel like you're working so hard, but you're working towards something that you love and you're going to love. So it didn't feel like as much of a burden, if you will, in the beginning. But as time went by, the intense activity took a toll, especially on Dora, who had multiple sclerosis.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
yes.
Yes. Which can be actually debilitating.
Sure. I'm wondering, how she's even doing some of these things.
Well, let me tell you. It got worse because Friedrich told her she could basically overcome this ailment by simply thinking positively.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mhm. Because remember, it's this conquering your own mind and your own body, right? You make your own destiny. And Dora recorded in her journal that he had already started some of this when they were in Germany. And yeah, it worked when she was in Germany, doing manual labor every day. But here, she's literally moving volcanic rocks every day in the intense heat, building a shelter. So, what worked for her in Germany is not going to work for her here in Floreana. But Frederick would not relent. Like, he was like, we had to keep moving. And even you can hear it in some of Dora's writing. She was having a really hard time with it because she really didn't want to let Frederick down.
Mm.
And I don't know. I feel really bad for her. But even with this, with her saying, I don't want to let him down, like I want to keep moving. I'm pushing my body. I'm pushing my body to the limits. He wound up writing, quote, I must frequently remind Dora that Nietzsche says, to live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in suffering, end quote. So,
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not loving this. I'm all for the power of positive, you know, thinking. I agree with that to a huge extent. You don't fill your mind with negativity, fill your mind with positivity, laugh, be happy. Like I believe in all of that, but there's a balance. And I don't know. I think to tell somebody with a debilitating condition, oh, it's okay. You just, remember your suffering is just, it's all for the good. When he's over here not suffering, at least to the same extent, I think that's kind of, that would rub me wrong.
yes, and not even acknowledge that you have this issue. Like, it seems
Right.
very one-sided to me, and I do think there is also power in listening to your own body, and I've gotten
Sure.
better at that as I've gotten older, just listening to my body and hearing when my body really just needs rest.
Right.
And, 10 years ago, I would have just viewed that as a weakness, and now it's not because I rest and I refuel, and then I'm so much better afterwards.
Right. And I don't know anything about this condition, and maybe like staying busy and active and physically active, I don't know, maybe that's helpful. I really don't know. But at the same time, everybody's got to rest, especially somebody who's working with this kind of a condition. So, mm,
Well, Frederick did not believe that. And so he gave Dora no quarter. But they pressed on. And after a year,
wow.
they had been there over a year, Dora wrote this in her journal. We've now been here a year and a half, and Friedo has begun to assume the appearance of a human habitation. Yet, though our aim was to lead a life of contemplation, the ceaseless manual toil has dulled the edges of our spiritual life. Our Eden is no place of rest, as I thought it would be, and neither is this Eden a peaceful one. Frederick is seemingly eternally dissatisfied with everything I do, and at times the conflict between us bursts out into something horrible. End quote.
Right.
Likewise, Friedrich wrote, quote, I want to see Dora as more than another frail and cowardly woman. I cannot relax the sternness of her education. For us, there is only discipline. We must conquer by will. End quote.
So, whatever their relationship is or was, it's getting less romantic.
I don't know if it ever started that way, but it's certainly not that way now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeek. Okay.
Yeah, eek, exactly. Eek. And it doesn't
And
get better.
and this is the only other person on this island.
Yes.
Like,
Here's what I want to say. This woman with a debilitating disease has survived on an island for a year and a half with your curmudgeony, you know what? How dare you say she's frail and cowardly?
right.
She is the opposite of frail and cowardly, in my opinion.
And again, especially during this time. Like during
Yes.
this time when the roles for women were very much, defined, and you wouldn't generally see a woman, just blazing a trail on a deserted island.
Like, you think that's not brave? Just getting on a boat, leaving
Right.
everything that she's ever known, and just going to an uninhabited island?
Yeah.
I I wouldn't do that, and some of it is because of fear.
Right.
I have fear of the unknown. I don't know what's gonna happen out there. So, I needless to say, that comment kinda rubbed me a little bit the wrong way.
Sure.
Alright. So, Frederick's family, who, again, was, um invited to be interviewed for this documentary, confirmed that any letters sent home from him never expressed any kind of love or even kindness towards Dora. He never even said anything nice about her. She was just somebody that was there. And in more letters and journals, the two described their weakening relationship. Dora wrote, quote, Frederick does not see that I need to be loved and treated kindly. He spends each hard-earned minute of his spare time on his philosophical work and is unconscious of everything else. As solace, I turn to my burro. She had a little pet donkey, like a little companion donkey that helped them on the island. She said, I turned to my burro, lavishing him with all the care and attention I have to give. End quote.
Now, this is going to be,
Frederick,
sorry, this is going to be a dumb question, but did they bring the chickens and the burrow with them? Okay.
they did.
Okay.
Yeah, they did. Now, Frederick wrote, quote, Dora's attachment to wild creatures is a source of great disappointment to me. She thinks that her love of animals is good and admirable, but her affection for them is nothing but flattering the animal within herself. End quote.
Then
I'll
why
give
is
you a
he a
minute for that one.
vegetarian? Why is he's a vegetarian for moral reasons, right?
Yeah, but apparently he doesn't befriend them. He just doesn't eat them, I
Okay.
guess. I don't know. I really my takeaway from Friedrich is I do think in many ways he was a genius. Like, his way of thinking and the way he was able to look at things on a higher plane. However, he really doesn't understand humanity. Like, he
Sure.
doesn't understand compassion or empathy. Um it's just not in him. Um
Sure.
and dichotomy, you know?
Right.
Now, Dora also made an entry. Quote, I confess that I do spend a great deal of time with my dear burro. Sometimes, however, even he is not enough. Often I feel that I should go mad with joy if any other human being should come into sight, even a cannibal, even a bloodthirsty buccaneer. End quote.
Wow. I bet.
So, not a great start. But both of them are committed. They're still there. So maybe it is just an unhappy marriage. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but they're both there sharing an island and they're incredibly unhappy with each other. So, believe it or not, around this time, the Ecuadorians installed a mailbox station on the island of Floreana. They
Okay.
literally called it Post Office Beach or Post Office Bay. I think is what they called it, because there was this little bay where they put like
Cute.
it actually is so funny. It's like a post with like a barrel. It literally is just a barrel where they just like
Okay.
stick mail in there. Now, it doesn't come regularly. I mean, the post office ship would come every few months, sometimes even a year apart. Like it would only come every year, but they were still able to get some correspondence in and out. And later, more people will come to the island, as we'll talk about. And so that mail came more regularly, but they were able to get some correspondence.
Man, I bet those
And
days were exciting days.
big days,
Yeah.
exactly, when anybody would come to the island, I imagine.
Sure.
But
Or even
definitely
just
on post office.
just to have a letter.
Just to have a letter,
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
Exactly. And I think it probably goes without saying that the majority of people in their lives, the majority of people they're writing home to, thought they were a little insane for doing what they're doing. Um, and maybe insane is not the right word. Maybe they thought it was admirable. Maybe they thought it was brave. Maybe they just thought it was so unusual that these letters started getting leaked, if you will, or given to the press. So the press figured out that there's this couple of ideological, spiritual, this couple that's living on this uninhabited island. And so there started to be a lot of interest in what they were doing. And they really had a kind of a heyday with it. They used some of the leak information, but then, as the press does, they exaggerated a lot of it too. So there were all these headlines that referred to Friedrich and Dore as like the modern day Adam and Eve. They described them as nudists. They described them as caveman, eccentric philosophers. They essentially became like a curiosity, is what they
Sure.
became. But because of this, they started having other researchers interested in what they were doing. And so they found that as maybe part of their calling, to spread this idealistic verbiage that they wanted to be preaching. So one particular research team headed by Captain G. Allen Hancock came to the island. I guess I should back up a little. So there was a research ship called the Valero, and it was captained by Allen Hancock. And he gathered a group of 20 to 30 scientists, teachers, and students, and they would sail around the Galapagos collecting research on each of the islands. But then when they heard about two people living there, that almost became like an oddity to research as well.
Of course.
So they decided they were going to go visit Friedrich and Dore and figure out like what's their situation, like what do they have going on. So one day they sailed up to the island, and Friedrich and Dore were really sure. I mean, Dore was thrilled out of her mind. Friedrich was a little bit more reserved, but when he realized they were genuinely interested in what they were doing, they didn't want to interfere. They were just interested in how they were living. He softened to it a lot. And there's a ton of video of him, like Friedrich, walking them around their little inhabitants, showing them like their makeshift shower and showing him how they had made these like rudimentary tools to open coconuts and like really hard to crack like nuts and from trees and things. So it was kind of like Swiss Family Robinson inventions, like the pulleys and all that kind of stuff. They had all that stuff set up. So it was extremely interesting for these researchers to see these people living off the land. Now, as you said, they brought some of the animals, they brought some home goods with them initially, but most of it was living on the land in the very beginning. And it was impressive, right? It was impressive for this research vessel to see what they're doing. Because of this, the couple was invited on board the Valero, where they were entertained by a live performance of classical German music.
Okay.
Which must have been such a treat.
Oh, yeah.
One of the researchers reported that Dore responded by having tears come down her face upon hearing her native music. But Friedrich was uncomfortable with her display of emotion and tried to, quote, distract her with a lecture on the psychological unity of music, end quote.
Wow. he just seems like this just controlling, ugh. Why did she pick him? If you're going to go to a deserted island, why would you go with this guy?
I kind of feel like that, but I doubt she knew before you get there. But when you spend that much time with somebody, I don't know. But he's not hiding it for anybody else either. So I don't know.
I feel like for him to be this controlling, there had to have been signs. I feel like there had to have been signs for him to be this controlling. Maybe not.
Even his family said before he left, like, he just hates people. So maybe Dore thought she was the one that was going to change him, or the one that was going to, I don't know, the one that he actually did care about. I don't know. Why do us women make weird decisions like that?
I don't know. And so often, I guess what you're initially attracted to does become that little, thorn in the side, I think. Like, oh, she's such a free spirit. And then it's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's always chaos, you know? Um,
Right.
so maybe it's one of those scenarios.
Yeah. Now, after this visit with the research team, Frederick recorded the event in his journal, and he noted that the visit was welcome because he found the scientists to be like-minded. In the same
Mm.
entry, he noted that he would not be as welcoming to anyone seeking permanent residency.
I get that. I wouldn't want anybody coming onto my island. I got this whole island to myself.
Right. Well, in 1934, enter the family Wittmer.
Mm,
They showed up on the shores of Floreana, intending to make it a permanent residence.
wah, wah.
So, wah, wah. Now the Whitmores came to Galapagos from Germany, again, because of an article they had read with excerpts written by Dr. Friedrich Ritter. See, their son had been frail since birth, and based on what Frederick had written, they thought that Galapagos could help their son thrive. But the Whitners were very different from Friedrich and Dore because they were not philosophers or spiritualists. They were just ordinary people who had spent their entire savings in order to help their son. So this immediately created a big problem, like a rift between the two camps. The Ritters were essentially academics. The Whitners were all about endurance. Very different people.
Sure.
Now, when they arrived at the island, the Whitners expected to be welcomed with open arms by the Ritters, but they were sorely mistaken. To show the Whitners how welcome/unwelcome they were, Frederick showed them some caves where they could live. These were actually caves that had been carved out by like primitive pirates like hundreds
Okay.
of years ago. While that may seem great, these caves were an hour and a half away from Friedo. So he said, here's this place you can live very far away from me.
But that's what I would do. That's what I would do. I thought you were going to say, hey, go inside this cave and then quick pushing like a blocking the opening. I
No,
mean, I
no,
wouldn't
and
put
to
it
be
past Friedrich.
no, and to be fair, these caves were actually great. They were caves carved into the side of the mountain, and there was a little spring next to it. So the Whitners actually wound up doing very well there. But there was some concern because they were so far away from the Camp Friedo, specifically because, prepare yourself, Margaret was pregnant.
Oh, no. Ooh.
And she came to the Galapagos with the idea that Dr. Friedrich Ritter would be helpful in the delivery of her baby. So
Okay.
they really had the wrong idea of who Dr. Friedrich Ritter was. I mean, and again, all they know is what's been printed in the paper.
Sure.
So I could see how they had the wrong idea, but boy, did they have the wrong idea.
Yeah.
And so Frederick was like, no, I'm not helping you deliver your baby. Absolutely not. And of course, they are shocked and now terrified because they've spent every cent they have just to get to this island. They can't afford passage back, even if they wanted to. And so they're stuck. I mean, really stuck. So I can't imagine being in Margaret's shoes, honestly.
No, but there was no like communication before they came here. Like they didn't even bother to write a letter, and be like, hey, we're considering moving here. By the way,
No, and I
will you
actually
deliver my
do
baby?
see No, I actually do see in Dr. Ritter's position why he's like, guys, I mean, presumptive, a lot of assumptions going
Exactly.
on here that I'm just going to help you deliver your baby.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he's a doctor. I don't know exactly what kind of doctor he is, but he's a doctor. If anybody is in need of medical care, I feel like a doctor should step in. Uh, but
Well,
but
that's kind of what Margaret said in the end. She was like, I mean, don't you have this like moral obligation to help people? But at the same time, I mean, well, yeah, but again, you didn't send any notice. But again, I don't know how easy it was to send notice. I mean, they did
true,
have a post office, but 6 months goes by and maybe they did send a letter and it got lost. Who knows?
yeah.
But whatever it was, there was clearly so this is like the second big rift.
Right. I just
between the
think
two
it's
camps.
kind of like, did you actually think you were going to be welcome?
They did, but they were not. But they
Yeah.
were not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe they thought because Friedrich Ritter had written so much about just this, Eden, this utopia, and so they thought that maybe he would want to share that with people. But again, I think they got the real wrong impression.
Well, and I think that, not to beat a dead horse, but I think that's part of what makes it so glorious is the fact that it's not inhabited, right? Because Florida, really, truly, Florida could be glorious. It could be paradise, you know. And I know some people like you think it is, but you know what I mean? Like, you just show me a picture of uninhabited Florida, and I'm like, that's paradise. I'll live there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the draw is that there's nobody else there.
Yeah, I get it. Well, now the Ritters are there and the Wittners are there. And 2 months later, on October 15th, 1932, another trio showed up.
Ay, ay, ay.
And the leader of this trio was a woman who introduced herself as the Baroness Eloise von Wagner from Paris by way of Vienna. And I will tell you, this woman was larger than life. She met her new neighbors by announcing she was going to open a hotel named Hacienda Paradiso upon the island. Immediately upon meeting them, she had two male companions in tow. They were introduced as Rolf Lorenz and Robert Philippson. Philippson was said to be her architect, and Lorenz was her engineer, but it was clear to everyone that these two men were simply the Baroness's lovers.
You go, Baroness. Okay.
I literally cannot imagine, especially in juxtaposition to the two families that we already have on the island, right? Like, and especially in the 1930s.
It's going.
Get the heck out.
It's yeah, I think it's gonna fall apart soon. And talk about unwelcome. Not only am I here, but I'm here and we're building a hotel.
And you have no say in the matter. Like, I'm building a hotel.
Now I will say Ritter didn't own this island. So,
It's true.
in so many ways, he's lucky he got a year and a half by himself there. It's not like he owns this land. But
It's true.
So I don't know. It's getting a little chaotic.
So I feel like you are just gonna love the Baroness. I
already do.
you can't not love her in some regards. Take this quote, for example. Quote, "After long and mature analysis, I've come to the conclusion that my project is feasible." This is the hotel she's talking about.
Sure.
"After all, woman is capable of everything from the highest to the lowest. Certainly she is greater and more resolved than the male." End quote.
I mean, if the shoe fits.
She was literally in her own mind like the queen of the island the minute she stepped foot on the island.
I kind of
no credence to anyone else.
I kind of love it. I'm here. I have arrived. You're welcome.
The problem with the Baroness is she just didn't have a lot of couth, shall we say. Like, she just didn't know how to play well in the sandbox. Like, you don't come out just, like, announcing this kind of stuff. So, and not only did she announce she was building a hotel, she also has these two, like, gentlemen in waiting, which is very, like, against the norm. But she also just straight up moved into the Wittner's orange grove. She was like, it's really pretty right here. I have access to the spring, like, literally on their little homestead. She just like, this is where I'm going to build the hotel. Looks great.
Oh, no. Oh, she better watch her back. You better watch her back.
Bad. This is so bad. And she's, like, continually shocked when people don't just love her ideas.
Well, I kind of...
I know.
Do we have a picture of her?
Oh, so many pictures and videos.
Okay.
I will tell you, I'll get into it a little bit later, but she was actually a star in a movie.
Of course.
Now, it was the 1930s, so it was a silent movie. It's a 4-minute silent movie, but it's in that documentary I'm telling you to go watch. you have got to watch it for nothing else than just watching the Baroness, because she is feeling herself. I mean, she is so into herself. It's mesmerizing, genuinely. So you've got to go watch it after this.
I will. I'm a fan. I want her. I don't even know what she looks like. I want her face on a t-shirt.
Yeah, she's incredible. She's incredible. Now, of course, all of her ideas were revolting for like 100 different reasons, but to the Ritters, this was particularly offensive because they detested money-making schemes, right? Like
Yeah.
that was one of the reasons they came. Like they didn't want any of like the competition or the rat race. So Dora criticized the Baroness's plans right away. She said, quote, she was trying to make Floreana into a kind of Miami for American millionaires, end quote. Now, I don't particularly love Friedrich, but his quote, you're not going to love the quote in its entirety, but it makes me giggle every time. He said, quote, if she had a proper man with her instead of a pair of servile gigolos, she could be kept in order without trouble, end quote.
Oh, no, he...
It is highly offensive and highly comical all at the same time.
Oh, no.
Literally, I want to be able to use servile gigolos in like my own vernacular one day. Like, I just want to be in a situation where I can say that.
All I see, going back to my t-shirt idea, here's a picture of the Baroness. Then she's got a leash on each hand with her servile gigolos at the end.
Her servile gigolos. So we got that going now. I mean, this is real life, Cynthia. I just want to point this out. This is actual real life happening.
As you're describing it, I'm like, oh, I see why they made this into a movie, because like with all the different characters coming, like what a hysterical movie. I can't wait to look and see who played the Baroness.
But it's like real life. It's
yeah.
crazy. Okay. So actually I do have to add this part too, because again, like the characters that came out of the story. So Dora clearly did not like the Baroness. However, in her own writings, she did confirm that while the Baroness was terrible, she still liked her more than Margret, because Margret was, gasp, a housewife.
Oh my gosh. It's I love it. That's hysterical. That's actually pretty hysterical. She would hate us.
She's awful. Yeah, she's awful, but she didn't choose to be a housewife, so she's not completely inept.
Oh my gosh. It's just funny to me. Like, did she just hate mothers? Like, did she, like, no, so motherhood's fine.
Just the idea of being subservient, even though in many ways I feel like she was. So I don't know. She just, being a housewife, worst thing ever.
Oh my gosh. So as much as she hates the Baroness, she's better than Margret. Okay. All right.
Yep. So
one big happy family.
Now tensions rose further when the German couple suspected that the Baroness was intercepting their letters back to Europe. Yeah.
This is my mailbox.
And these letters were important because they weren't just communicating with their families, but that was also the way they could bring more attention to their cause by being published in the paper. So they, at this point, were communicating directly with the press, like with publications. So what they realized is when those publications would be delivered back to them with their articles, it turned out everything that they were reporting would have been altered to make the Baroness the center of the story.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're all there trying to highlight, their very exotic life on this uninhabited island. Yet somehow it would all turn around to like highlight how great the Baroness was, like living in the Galapagos. Like the Galapagos Baroness was the center of everything. She like coined the term, and it wasn't long before she began openly declaring herself as the Empress of Floreana Island. I just need a minute. I just need a minute.
Oh, no. Well, first of all,
Okay.
I think Ritter needs to stop writing letters because people are going to keep coming to the island. Like, I think we got to deal with these people who are already on the island. We gotta ship
And how?
Baroness off.
I
And
mean, at least the Baroness is like over next to the Wittners. I feel bad for the Wittners, but at least she's over there somewhere.
oh, I'd
But
love
yet
her.
she's still in there chilly all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd want her as my next door neighbor. It would just be pure entertainment. Just
oh,
pure
she
entertainment.
was. She was. Again, I want you to go watch the documentary, and then I want to talk about the Baroness. What a character. Like, what an absolute character. So, let's move on, because time is moving on into December of 1932. Margaret goes into labor. Because remember, that's still happening, right? However, Margaret was so miffed by how the doctor had treated her and her family that she refused to let her husband actually get him. So she was in labor for 72 hours in a cave. 72 hours in a cave. Finally, after that time, she said, fine, go get the doctor. So her husband runs down. Of course, it's like a 3-hour journey, right? It's like an hour and a half down and an hour and a half back, even if they're hurrying. So, to his credit, Friedrich did come and he did aid her in the delivery, and he helped her deliver a healthy baby boy.
Oh,
Incredible. Incredible.
that is incredible.
Yeah. Friedrich later wrote of the incident, quote, Margaret was very brave, and Rolf, which is what they named the little boy, Rolf, is certainly a fine, strapping boy. I hope his upbringing will be stern enough to make of him a worthwhile character.
Okay, for like 2 seconds, I was like, "Oh, Friedrich."
No.
Saying Margaret was brave and Rolf was strapping boy. I was like, "Oh, he does have a heart." And then immediately, nah.
No, but he doesn't. But he really doesn't. His only other comment on the matter was that he suggested to Margaret that baby Rolf sleep on a very firm bed, like basically on the ground, because, quote, those who sleep on soft beds become lazy, end quote.
Well, that actually is good advice for infants, but not for that reason.
I thought the same thing. At first I was like, oh, wow, he really does know about baby sleep habits and SIDS. Then I was like, oh, wait, no, he doesn't. Nope,
Yeah.
he doesn't. So I will say, though, everyone's journal entries said that the birth of little baby Rolf brought about a temporary peace on the island. And they said it was almost kind of like a feeling of Christmas. And all 3 groups wound up giving each other gifts as like a feeling of like goodwill. So they would like share fruits and herbs and like sproutlings, like trees that they could put on their own homesteads, which was really nice.
That is really sweet. That is nice.
Yeah.
A baby will do
Yeah.
that. A baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And that lasted for like 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then in January of 1933, the Valero, that research vessel, came back to the island with a fresh set of explorers and supplies for Friedo. Because again, they don't know that there are new settlers, right?
Right.
When they arrived at the beach, they found a sign that had been written in lipstick.
I wonder by whom?
Who could have done that?
I mean, there's only one person I know of who's bringing lipstick to a deserted island.
It said, quote, friends, whoever you are. I'm going to start again. Friends, whoever you are. 2 hours from here lies the Hacienda Paradiso, a lovely spot where the weary traveler can rejoice to find refreshing peace and tranquility on his way through life. And Paradiso, you have only one name, friend.
Adorable.
In lipstick. I'm like, that was like a whole tube of lipstick to write that.
But she brought several, so it's okay.
It's true. It's true. Now, not really knowing what to make of this, the expedition first went to Friedo, where Friedrich and Dore explained that the Baroness had 2 lovers, owned a bunch of guns, had no decency, and had claimed the island as her own. which pretty much summed it all up. Now, when the Baroness heard that supplies had been brought for Friedo, she began to demand that the gifts be split amongst all three groups, which Friedrich and Dore refused. And it is truly at this point in the story that we realize that people are gonna people. Like, by Friedrich and Dore accepting the gifts, which is essentially like money, and not sharing it with anyone, aren't they essentially propagating what they were originally fighting against?
Yes. At the same time, I don't know. I really would not be happy with other people coming to the island. And I get it's not their island. They don't know it. But like if I really came here to get away from it all and then people just start showing up and imposing and I have arranged, I'm assuming these supplies were arranged for them. So they're bringing just enough for the two people. And then when everybody finds out about it, now they want to take half your stuff.
Well, apparently this was quite a load of stuff.
So it was more
'Cause
than enough.
yeah, I mean, it's like for like a whole year of supplies. They brought them a lot of stuff. It was like a huge amount of stuff. So now, granted, I mean, I don't know. Some of it is just the accepting of the goods. If you're there really to live off the land, but you're accepting this exchange, are you really living this idealistic, idyllic existence without being part of a community?
Which is what you're preaching. Because they are
Right.
there kind of like preaching living off of the land. And I'm assuming it's things like tools, but also maybe like canned goods and those kinds of things. I get it. And of course, I don't want to sound heartless. Like, of course, the kind thing to do would be to share with your fellow man. Of course, that's the kind thing. But I do understand, like, I mean, Baroness just sets up in my orange grove. I've been here for a year and a half. She's just going to claim my orange grove. And now she wants half my stuff and doesn't even ask, but demands it. Like,
Oh, I agree. Again, she doesn't play well in the sandbox. So,
right.
I mean, take from that what you will. But again, it's literally 7 adults on an island, and they're dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with here on
Well,
a mainland.
I
You
mean,
know what I mean? Like in a community. It's only 7 people, yet it's enough to create a huge conflict.
yeah.
So,
That's really sad, actually.
isn't that
Like, it's
sad?
just kinda like, "Ooh, are we all just like monsters?"
Yeah, 7 adults and 2 kids. I mean, one's a baby. So it's like,
Yeah.
wow, we can't even get along. 7 people
Well, honestly, even when it was just the 2 people, they had a hard
didn't
time
get
getting
along there
along.
either,
So, it's really interesting. That says a lot. Mhm.
doesn't it? Now, on February 6th, which was a Sunday in 1933, as the Valero sailed away, so the research vessel had been there, dropped off all the goods, found this sign. They actually had met the Baroness and met the Wittmers as well, so they kind of like investigated the whole island. As they were leaving, one of the researchers wrote, quote, "Today we leave Floreana, and we carry away with us several impressions regarding our friends. First, the Baroness seems to be an accomplished, comely, quite loquacious, if neurotic and unconventional lady who can be very attractive and companionable. Second, the Ritters not only resent competition in the hermit business, but are inclined to be troublemakers. Thirdly, the Wittner family is really succeeding in living off the land 100%, something the Ritters have been unable to do because of the generosity of Captain Hancock and others. Lastly, go where you may, you cannot escape the problem of social adjustment."
Mm.
End quote. I thought that was very wise and
That's a
very
really
observant.
very interesting write-up. Kinda
Yeah.
tells me everything I need to know about each group.
Yep. Several months later, the governor of the Galapagos came to investigate an incident where the Baroness was accused of assaulting a visitor to the island by threatening him with a gun and stripping his shirt from his body. Now, in her defense, she said the visitor shot one of her cows. So, I don't know. Maybe it was justified. But whatever it was looked down upon to, threaten visitors to the island. So, however, in this process of being investigated, the governor wound up gifting the Baroness. So he's just here to investigate a crime. But she does what the Baroness does best. And he gifts her 4 square miles of land for her hotel. She said, you know what? You're right. You need this. Now, in comparison, the Ritters and the Wittmers were given 50 acres. As the governor said, they were only settlers. They weren't budding baronesses. So you don't get as much.
She had a magnetism about her.
She did her thing. She did it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was a really devastating condition for the island because the Baroness, the piece of land she was given, it was at the head of the spring that fed the Wittner's homestead. Oh. So now she basically controlled that whole waterway. This is not good.
No.
The Baroness also convinced one of her followers to make a film. This is the film that I alluded to. So in January of 1934, a 4-minute silent film was created starring the Baroness as a pirate. This was her idea. She was a piratess.
Okay.
And again, if you watch this documentary for no other reason than to see this 4-minute film, it is worth it because it is wild. Again, she is so into herself. And later she was interviewed about it. She said, quote, "The man isn't born who can resist me. And I'm not afraid to say that I find variety to be the spice of life," end quote.
It's hard to imagine her as like a real person. Like this is a real person.
She's larger than life.
It's a movie character. So the fact that she's a real person, that's so fun. She's almost like a modern day, like stereotypical, like influencer.
Oh yeah. And she loved that. Like, and she was truly like, any attention is good attention. Any ships that would go by, she would be out on the beach and like scantily clad with like whips and a gun, and I mean, just she loved it all. She absolutely loved it all. Again, the star of her own show. And of course, everyone else was just all
appalled.
Appalled. Absolutely appalled that this is like their neighbor. Yet she comes to be investigated for basically assaulting someone and is given a bunch of land.
Hey, I mean, one thing I can say for the Baroness is she knows how to survive.
You'll love this part too, because during this, I also say there is also some suspicion that Friedrich Ritter may have been into the Baroness. There's nothing to prove that, but there is one photo of Friedrich smiling. Literally one of all the footage, all the pictures, there's only one of him smiling, and he has his arm around her.
Well, Stephanie, from what you've described, I mean, is it possible that there's any man who's not into the Baroness?
Well, according to her own admission, there is not a man that can resist her. So it's just everything I know of like Friedrich. I'm like, does he like anybody? But he might have been into her. I'm just saying, it's a rumor. We don't know for sure, but he might have been into her.
That is telling, though, that the one photo of him smiling, he's with her.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's actually kind of cute.
and she's so wow. Every one of her photos, she's just smiling, like almost like she's never experienced a bad day in her life. It's incredible. Aww. But because all this attention was put on her, it was leaked that the Baroness was actually not a Baroness at all. She was a French wife who ran away with her sales clerk, who turns out was Philippson. And Lorenz was basically just a lackey that she brought along. Like, he basically was like a puppy dog that was like following her around.
Sure.
So not at all an architect or engineer, basically just these boys, these young boys that she just had follow her around.
Yeah, so I saw that coming.
Yeah.
Just given what I know about the Baroness, I just assumed she wasn't a real one. Just a Baroness in her own mind.
She's a Baroness, she's a queen,
Yeah.
empress, she's all the
Empress.
things.
I was just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, sure. And here's where it gets even more messy. Because that beautiful, bountiful freshwater spring that everyone depended on, well, turns out during times of drought, it dries up.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's serious.
And in March of 1934, the Galapagos Islands experienced drought. It was hot. We're talking like 120 degrees in the shade.
Oh.
Hot.
Oh, no.
Hot. Crops dried up. Animals were dying.
Mm-hmm.
And no ships were coming to shore. We're talking months went by. Nothing was coming. No supplies, no visitors. And things got even worse in the Baroness's camp because Lorenz, what's his first name? I can't remember his first name. They always refer to him as Lorenz in the documentary. You don't remember his first name, do you?
I want to say Philip, but don't quote me on that.
It's a very German name.
Then no, it's not Philip.
No, it's not Philip.
There's
Philip's son.
I like the way Philip Lorenz sounds.
Oh, it does sound like a nice name. Well, anyway, you guys are just going to have to trust me. Oh, no, here we go. Rudolf Lorenz. German. Very German name. So Rudolf Lorenz, this basically like lackey guy that was running away with her. So he started coming into the other camps saying that Philippson and the Baroness were actually beating him. Like severe beatings. Like basically and everybody had kind of noticed that the longer he was there, the more he kept getting demoted, if you will. Like he was always the one carrying the bags. He was always the one taking care of the animals. He was always the one out in the garden. Like he was always like the do boy, basically. Mm-hmm. But then he started coming saying, no, like they're actually like beating me, like physically abusing me. So he first went to the Ritters to tell them what was happening. And they were like, well, kind of stinks for you, but like we can't let you stay with us because we don't want the Baroness wrath like coming to our camp, right? And there would have been. I mean, I think she would not have liked that very much. However, the Wittners conceded and told him that he could come and stay with them. And Margret in particular was very sympathetic to Lorenz, and she allowed him to basically move in. However, she reported that almost every afternoon, the Baroness would come to her gate, would call for Lorenz, and somehow convince him to come back to the hacienda. But by the end of the day, Lorenz would always return, and Margret reported that he would come and sit at the table and just weep, like just cry.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what was happening over there, but it was really bad.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah. And why did he keep going back?
I don't know. I mean, I do wonder if this is just somehow like some brainwashing kind of stuff, or I don't know. I don't know what she was promising him. Again, there was no report of like what was said. I think Margret just tried to stay out of that. I mean, Lorenz is a man, you know, I mean, he can make his own decisions, but it's just bad, very manipulative. And again, in the middle of this drought, in the middle of this tension, it's all just kind of like coming to a boiling point, as you can see. Now, according to reports, one day the mild-mannered Heinz Wittmer had enough. He flew into a fury and yelled at the Baroness, and then came back down to speak to Dr. Friedrich Ritter. And according to Friedrich, Heinz said, "We must all get together and do something. It is no use appealing to the governor. We've got to take things into our own hands now." End quote. So that's an interesting comment. And so we're seeing that Heinz is about to lose it. Ritter's already annoyed that anybody's living on his island. Margret is incredibly annoyed, and really trying to stand up to Lorenz. So she's angry at the Baroness. And then you have Lorenz, who, I mean, from all reports, is just experiencing horrendous desperation, restlessness. How is he going to get out of this? And this is where everything takes that sinister and mysterious turn. On March 19th, 1934, Dore wrote, "We continue to suffer under this impressive drought, and for months we haven't seen a soul but for Heinz Wittner, who comes for his weekly visits." So the deal was they would work Monday through Saturday, but Sunday was a free day for all the islanders. That's kind of how they operated. And I guess at this point, the relationship between Heinz and Margret was a little strained as well. And so he would always leave and go down and hang out with the Ritters. And there are some rumors that maybe he and Dora may have had a special relationship. So there was some jealousy on Margaret's side. And this is all, it's all bad. There was an atmosphere. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I assume maybe because now they kind of have a common enemy in the Baroness, that maybe even Ritter might be a little more open to, visitors who also share that same kind of hatred.
Again, this is the Agatha Christie part of it for me, is there's so many moving parts and so many moving players and so many things that so many suspects.
Sure. Yeah.
Everyone is potentially a suspect now. 10 days ago, Friedrich and I were resting in the stillness of the intense heat, when all at once a long shriek gashed the silence. It was an outcry of such panic and terror that it was hardly human, and yet it was a woman's voice. It froze the marrow in our bones. We expected to hear footsteps rushing down the path towards us, but no one came. And as I said, perhaps the drought is playing havoc on our nerves. The next day was the day when Wittner usually called, but he did not come. Then yesterday, Margret Wittner appeared instead. She was not with her husband, but with Lorenz, and she told us the strangest story. It sounded almost like it had been rehearsed. End quote. According to Margret Wittner, the Baroness and Philippson had set sail on a passing ship towards Tahiti. She said the Baroness had abruptly came to her and decided that her venture on the island was no longer feasible and it would be best suited for another island. And after Margret transferred this message to the Ritters, Lorenz coolly looked at Dora and asked if she would like to purchase any of the Baroness's things so that he could pay for passage off the island. So curious. So the idea is a ship just showed up and the Baroness said, yeah, I think we're just going to do it. And they just got on the ship. And she had left all of her possessions in Lorenz's care. And he was willing to sell whatever. I do think if Lorenz had a suspicion that she would come back, I don't know that he would so readily have sold off her items. That's just a hunch. But anyway, he was very ready to sell anything that he needed to.
Well, and this is quite interesting, coming the day after they hear this scream in the distance, a woman's scream. What was that?
Now, obviously, Friedrich and Dore weren't really sure what to make of this, so they decided to follow the pair to the hacienda, only to find out that the Baroness had not taken any of her personal effects, even some special mementos that she always carried with her. There was a special edition of this book that she considered her good luck charm, so anytime she left the island, she would always take it with her. It was still just sitting there by the bed. It also seems very strange that no one had seen a passing ship, which you would have noticed. And I'm talking not a ship, like not that day, not that week, not that month. No one saw a ship. If there was a ship that was taking them to Tahiti, nobody saw it. So I will tell you, to this day, no one really knows their fate. No one knows what happened to them. They are still just disappeared.
Well, and because you wouldn't, first of all, I don't think you would just get on just some random ship that came by. But secondly,
Well, but you would. In this situation, you kind of would. If you really wanted to get somewhere, you had to get when the getting was good. Like, you didn't really have a ton of options. But as determined as the Baroness was, now granted, she hadn't experienced drought before, so maybe that sent her in a different direction.
I just think, okay, so yeah, you make a good point. Maybe you would take the opportunity whenever it came. And things were getting rough on the island. It was no longer this paradise. But you would take these are long journeys. This isn't like I'll be there in 3 hours. You would take at least some stuff, even if you couldn't take everything. You would take your purse, like the modern day equivalent of your purse, or so you would take your book that you take anytime you go anywhere. You would take your stuff. So the fact that all of her stuff was left behind, and then there was this scream, and well, I mean, has there ever been any reports? She's a big personality. So if she showed up in Tahiti, we would have heard of her in Tahiti.
Yeah. She has never been seen or heard from again.
Yeah. Okay.
There are no reports of her ever showing up in Tahiti.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about suspects. So we've got Lorenz.
Which one?
You've got Margret. You've got Ritter. You've got Heinz. A combination of two or more of them. Did she leave on her own? It's just take your pick.
Right. I mean, even yeah, Ritter and Dore, they could have written that in their journal. Dore could have written that in her journal to like take the spotlight off of them. That might not have even happened.
Yep.
So,
right. And that's it too, and I will tell you, this is just the surface. There's way more that we're about to cover. And I think that's an excellent point that you just brought up, is we're relying on what they've written.
Right.
And they could have written something to cover something up.
Right.
So I don't know that we should take any of this to be 100% what happened. I think you have to take everything with a grain of salt, especially considering how, I mean, we've used the word tense quite a few times, but yeah, like just how murky this all is, and how tense, like what a struggle everyone's having, and how, how they're really not getting along with each other.
Right. And it's also an island where I'm assuming there's I don't know what kind of wild animals, quite frankly, are on the Galapagos Islands. Like, are there like animals of prey, like wild cats or bears or?
No, I mean, there certainly are dangerous animals like wild boar and things like that, but
maybe
nothing that's going to
poisonous
like
snakes.
Maybe. I mean, I know there's like sharks and things like that. I mean, there certainly are things
Right.
that could end your life, but no body has ever been found either.
Right.
Like no bones, no body.
But there have even been like a big hole, like a sinkhole or something like that. I'm just thinking outside of the box.
Yes. The short answer is yes. Could it have been some totally bizarre natural disaster? Yeah. Sure.
Or drowned. She could have drowned.
Yep.
Now it's weird that there's 2 people missing. But
yeah. I mean, I agree with all of that. And that's kind of what makes it so mysterious, is we don't know. I mean, why? I mean, all the things. Did Lorenz and Margaret really make up that story? Or did Dora make up that they made up that story? I mean, all the things. Like,
Right.
you just don't know. You
Right.
just don't know. So, obviously, I've told you, Lorenz was like, get me out of here. And I think that could be for a lot of different reasons. Like, if he
Sure.
is the killer, he's like, I got to get out of here. If he's not the killer, he could also be like, I got to get out of here.
Right.
Like, so unfortunately, though, it was months before a passing vessel finally stopped. And that was at like the end of May. So the disappearance happened in March. Think about if you are not the killer. You're on this island with a killer.
Right.
You know they're the killer, but you can't say they're the killer. I would just, again, movie worthy. Like, movie
Right.
worthy. Like, because you're not really sure, but you can't let them know that you know.
Right.
You can't let them know that you know. So, anyway, it's just so messy. It's all so messy. So, finally, again, a vessel did stop. And it was a small fishing ship manned by a Norwegian manned by a Norwegian named Nugrud. Now, Nugrud agreed to take Lorenz to the island of Santa Cruz, which was like north from where he was. And then later, after a day or two had passed, he would take him to St. Cristobal. Because again, he's not in a huge vessel. And then from St. Cristobal, Lorenz would get on the main ship that would take him back to the mainland of Ecuador, where he could get back to Germany. However, as they were passing over to Santa Cruz, Lorenz saw that big vessel already heading over to St. Cristobal. And so he said, no, we can't wait because I'm going to miss it. Because it only goes every few weeks, right? He's like, I'm going to miss it. We've got to get over there. We've got to get over there. So like as soon as they had anchored at Santa Cruz, he's like, please, let's go. Please, let's go. Please, let's go. And Newgard was like, no, man, like, we're going to take a break. I'm going to stay here for a few days. We're going to like get some supplies. I'm going to get a meal. Like, we're going to rest. And this one's actually kind of funny, but Newgard was very superstitious. And the next day would have been February the 13th.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, no, it's a no-go. It's a no-go for me. Much more practically, though, the seas were also very choppy because this is the very beginning of July by the time they finally got there. So this was not the best time to be in these waters in a small vessel. And so he was like, no, the seas are too choppy. I don't want to do it. And so Lorenz was negotiating with him, and he basically just kept upping the money that he would give him. Like, he wanted to do anything he could to get to that vessel to get back to the mainland. So finally, he got to this outrageous sum, and Nurig couldn't say no anymore. So he said, okay, fine. So the next morning, they set out, heading over to St. Cristobal so that Lorenz could catch the ship. And that was the last anyone saw of them.
So
Alive, I guess.
Did they make it to the ship?
No, they never made it between the two islands. They left one island, but they never made it to the other one. They had just vanished.
Well, it was the 13th, and there were choppy waters. So he was right. He was right to have said no. Oh, man.
Yep.
That's a bummer.
Now, back on the island, things were also getting stranger. About 7 months after the disappearance of the Baroness and Philippson, Dora wrote, quote, only 4 adults remain on the island, and a strange mood has come over Friedrich. Yesterday, he turned to me and said, I think I shall go on to my inn in Floreana. I have found here what I came to find, and this is where I hope to die. Happily, this new mood has allowed us to find harmony and peace together, and Frederick has become considerate and tender. A stillness that we have never known before unites us. Is he making a face?
Everybody's gone. The Baroness is out of here. Her lovers are gone. I don't know. Grass is getting a little greener. Maybe it's just maybe he just needed some perspective.
Maybe, because at the same time, here is a journal entry from Margret. Quote, Dr. Ritter visited us today and confided in us that he and Dora are always quarreling, and it's getting on his nerves. He says that the poor woman is not herself and has been extremely difficult. Heinz simultaneously wrote, Dr. Ritter tells us that they are running short of food as the rains that broke the drought have come too late to save his crops. Even their source of eggs is gone. Dora fed his chickens spoiled pig meat, and now they're all dead. Lorenz and I visited Friedo today and found the doctor boiling these dead chickens for future use. He offered us a jar of the chicken, insisting that the poison had been boiled out. We thanked him hastily and refused the offer. End quote. Dora goes on. Remember, this is kind of two divergent stories.
Yeah.
Right? So Dora is saying everything's fantastic. Meanwhile, the Wittners are saying, well, it's trouble in paradise over there. But Dora goes on. Yesterday, with great reluctance, we decided that we must overcome our aversion to meat and have one of the spoiled chickens for dinner. We took every possible precaution in preparing the poultry. Friedrich tried only a little, but I ate more of it. A few hours later, Friedrich laid down, complaining of feeling rather ill. Soon nausea set in and agonizing pains. The whole of the night was spent trying to stem the tide of poison which was overwhelming his body. At dawn, he asked me to read Nietzsche to him, and I came to one of his favorite passages. He said in a faint voice, Mark those lines, Dora. Remember them always in memory of me. Despair surged over me. Friedrich was dying, and what could I do with Friedo alone? End quote. Now, at this time, Dora went to fetch help from the Wittners and went on to say, quote, by the time Margret and I got back to Friedo, Friedrich's tongue was so badly swollen that he could no longer speak clearly. I sat beside him through the night, praying that somehow he might get well again. At dawn, Friedrich suddenly sat up. He stretched out both of his arms towards me. All trace of pain and torment had vanished from his face, which was transfigured with a look so lucid, so triumphant, so calm, so tender, that I could only gaze and gaze upon it like one who sees a miracle. But then he fell back on the pillows, and before I was able to utter a sound, he was gone. End quote. It's a lot. Which, it's all the things. Now I'm going to read you what Margret wrote. As Dora and I reached Friedo, Friedrich looked as if he was in excruciating pain. His one comprehensible remark was to point out the bitter irony that he, a vegetarian, was dying from meat poisoning. Then he made an immense effort, felt for the pencil and paper by his bed, and wrote his last sentence. I curse you with my dying breath. Then he looked up at Dora, his eyes gleaming with hate. He struggled against the shot of morphine that Dora gave him and repelled with blows and kicks every effort she made to touch him. Hours went by like this until, at last, he collapsed on his pillows and was gone. End quote. What say ye?
It's interesting. She ate more of the meat, and she was fine.
If you believe what she said.
Right. But I think if I were trying to, let's say she killed Friedrich. Let's say she poisoned him. Wouldn't you write that I just had a little bite, but he ate half the chicken? Like that, you know what I mean? Like, then you can kind of correlate it to the food. So that's interesting. Because I feel like that's what they're alluding to, is that it was the poisoned chicken that killed him. Now, I will say this.
That's what Dora is saying. I think Margaret's like, I don't know what the heck's going on here.
Right.
And she went on to say too, like, why did she wait so long to get help? But again, what help do you get? You know,
Right.
like,
What's Margaret going to do?
Exactly. She didn't do anything when she was there. I mean, what could she do?
Right.
So, but I do find the fact that these stories are so different to be like, what game are they playing? What are they covering up? What are they trying to point towards? Like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
Like, was Ritter the actual killer? And then Dora didn't like that and killed him? Was it Lorenz and Margret? Was it Ritter and Heinz? Like,
was it Dora killing everybody?
Was it Dora killing everybody?
What if we come out and the woman who like we feel like is the victim all along? And she's the mastermind. She's like, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of this guy. I've had enough of that lady.
Right.
Like, Margaret, you're next.
I feel like if it was Dora, it would have been Margaret first, just based on principle.
Maybe she needs Margaret. Maybe she needs Margaret to, I don't know. Interesting.
Wild. Now, in December of the same year, the bodies of Lorenz and his captain were found on an uninhabited island named Marchena. Both were presumed to have been shipwrecked, essentially. So either they ran out of fuel or the boat somehow had a problem. And it appeared as though they had died of just dehydration and starvation on the island. It was gruesome, really, really awful way to go. So we pretty much know what happened to them. I think the mystery there is if Lorenz was really the killer, what swift justice that was. But then I feel so bad for the captain. Maybe that was the greed. I don't know. All of it, it's just so eerie and weird. Yeah. So we at least recovered their bodies. Again, no one ever heard from the Baroness or Philippson ever again. They never made it to Tahiti. No ship was ever identified as having been near the island that was headed to Tahiti. But no bodies were ever found either. Friedrich's death was officially ruled an accident, but obviously there are questions. After Friedrich's death, Dora returned to Germany, where she published the journals that we're using in this case today. And basically that left Heinz and Margret Wittmer as the sole survivors of the Galapagos Affair. They stayed on the island. They gave birth to more children, and they eventually became wealthy after they opened a hotel that still exists on Floreana to this day.
Oh, that's weird. I find it interesting that the two people who disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances, so the Baroness and Ritter, are the two people that really made a lot of enemies. I find that interesting. Like, and how I've come to that conclusion is I'm like, okay, so who had the motive? And the answer is who didn't have motive to want either one of them gone. Like, I think any one of the people on the island could have been responsible for either or both of their demises if they were in fact caused by people. I guess there's also the possibility that they both were freak accidents.
Maybe
he really
there's a funny I mean, it's not a funny quote. I didn't include it in my script, but I feel like it does fit in here kind of nicely. They're in the documentary, they interview like current residents of the Galapagos, because of course, I mean, Ritter is literally still buried on the islands, like on Floreana, and so there's all these like haunting stories and folklore and all kinds of stuff, and everybody has their theory about who did it. It's like one of those things that just,
Of course.
the town just can't stop talking about, like, who you think actually did it. And there's this particular gentleman that fully believes, like, he was talking about the Baroness's murder, and literally he just says there are some people that they're just asking to get murdered. And at first I was like really offended by that. I was like, oh, that sounds awful. And then I'm like, well, maybe it does fit because, I mean, I'm not victim blaming, but I mean, there are some things that are going to make you more of a target, and she did every one of them.
She really did. And again, yeah, not victim blaming, but I just can see how every single person on that island would have motive. I mean, she's potentially going to cut off their water supply, or at the very least in control of it. Like, she has no respect for boundaries.
Yep.
I mean, I love her. Don't get me wrong, I love her. She's my favorite
Yeah.
character in this whole thing. But I can see why somebody would want her dead.
You can see how it would go sideways.
And Ritter, nobody likes Ritter.
No.
I see how everybody wants him dead.
Yeah. Yeah. But then why would, like, Margret throw suspicion at Dora, but maybe she was really the killer?
Well, exactly. She absolutely could have been. I find it interesting that out of everybody, Margret is the one who prevails.
Do you find it weird, though, that Margaret's writing all these pleasantries about... Do you think Dora knew and had Margret do it or something? I don't know. Like, she wanted to be free of Ritter, like, and she was like, Margret, like, listen, I'll leave, but I can't leave until he's gone, like, until he's out of the way, and then she goes on in her journal to write all this stuff. Basically, they just make up all the journal entries about, like, the food poisoning and stuff.
My mind didn't go there. I actually feel like if there is anybody who might be responsible for Ritter's death, it would be Dora. And maybe what Margaret's writing is actually maybe perhaps closer to the truth. They're not getting along. Maybe that's closer to the truth.
I find the fact that Dora tried to paint it so rosy, it's almost like that saying, like, thou doth protest too much.
Right.
It's like the fact that she wrote about how wonderful their relationship was. To me, I'm like, I just don't believe that. I just don't believe that happened.
I would have a hard time believing that. One of the two is okay. Either Margret or Dora is either lying in their journal entries or seeing a very different side of things.
Well,
like, it doesn't
describing that death scene, I don't see how. I mean, I just can't see. Somebody has to be lying. I guess what I'm saying in that scenario, in that specific scenario, I think somebody has to be just lying. I don't see how you could see those things just from different perspectives. I think one of them has to be lying.
Well, I mean, what Margret is saying is it's kind of open to interpretation. He had a look of hate. He looked at her like he hated her. Like, that's kind of interpretation.
She said he wrote a note. That's not up for interpretation.
Oh, well, he wrote a note, like, I'll never forgive you or something like that.
Yeah, like I curse you
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But even that, he didn't say I curse you, Dora. Just I curse you. It could have been I curse you, chicken. I don't know. I feel like, or for a completely different, maybe it was Dora's idea to eat the chicken. And he was really like, no, I'm a vegetarian. She's like, we're going to die. If we don't eat this, there's no other food. And then he did eat the chicken and then he died from the chicken. And he's like, I curse you. You made me eat this chicken. Like, maybe it was just.
That's possible too. I could see that.
I just think it's one of those things that's cryptic enough that, like, we put our own interpretation on it. But it could go in. None of it is like proof. None of it is evidence. So again, I feel like either somebody's lying or they're just seeing very different angles of the same thing. I don't know. It's mysterious for sure.
Dang. Yeah.
Mysterious.
Yeah. Now, the Wittner's direct descendants still operate that hotel. And they also have
Mm.
like yacht and tourism companies and everything right there. So,
They
as you
came
said,
out
I mean,
on
we use
top.
the word, yeah, they prevailed for sure. Now, in this particular documentary, the grandnephew of Friedrich Ritter said, quote, um, this is very important. Wherever you go, you bring yourself. And if you are the problem, you can go wherever you want and you will have problems. End quote. I find that was super significant. And in truth, we're unlikely to ever know exactly what happened on the island as Margaret Wittmer passed away in the year 2000 and was the
Wow.
last person who could have feasibly solved the Galapagos Affair mystery. She was 95, Cynthia.
Wow.
95. Now, when she right after everything happened back in 1934, she published her book, but then she refused to speak about it ever again. She would never ever speak about it ever again. And all she would say about it is en la boca cerrada no entran moscas, which translate to a closed mouth admits no flies. Mm, what does she know?
And see, I feel like that says a lot regardless of what her position was in this mystery. Maybe she just saw things. Maybe she just felt things. Maybe that's what helped her survive. Like, I see all this going on. I'm not going to say anything. I mean, she sounds like a very wise woman. And
I think so.
yeah,
Everyone besides, and actually, there, I was going to say everybody besides Dora really liked her, but honestly, every like one of the entries from the research team always talked about what an amazing housekeeper she was, how on top of it she was, how well taken care of her family, like that she was on top of it.
right.
And I think she's pretty smart. So I don't know. I don't know. So that's the Galapagos Affair.
Intriguing for sure. Now I can't wait to watch the documentary, and I want to watch the dramatized film with Jude
Yeah,
Law.
I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie Eden yet. Obviously, the documentary. Watch the documentary first.
Sure.
It is again, it's totally worth. Even if it's a few dollars that you have to spend, it's totally worth it. It's 2 hours too, so you're getting like the full shabam there.
Right.
But there's like home videos, or I guess he's like propaganda videos, whatever, of like Dora dancing with the donkey. There's like Frederick showing off their inventions. There's them like cooking. There's them like harvesting vegetables. There's little videos of little Rolf like
Oh my
hacking
god.
down things. I mean, he is
Oh, I
cute.
bet.
Like this little butterball of a baby. They show the caves. Actually, little Rolf is in the documentary as
Yeah.
like a man now,
Oh,
talking about his life
wow.
on the island. Yeah,
That's
which is
cool.
really cool. Yeah. So it's fascinating. I watched it 3 times because
Oh, wow. Okay.
I, I mean, some of it was research purposes, but some of it, it's just so fantastical. And that movie of the Baroness.
Oh, I
I
bet.
mean, oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. So, okay, I realize this has been a long one. So, I'm going to go ahead and talk about our branch of hope really quick because this is the beginning of September, which I cannot believe it. The summer is just flying by, which you are very pleased about, I suspect.
Back to school. Well, my little one started kindergarten. I don't think I took into consideration how hard that was going to be on mama's heart.
Yeah,
My
we're going to work
last
with that.
little one. So, I'm sure I'll adapt. I'll adapt. Oh, you meant summer over as far as weather. Sorry. See? Like see how how much it's taken up my mind, my
Well,
baby leaving me.
Well, I mean, that's part of it too. That's significant. So I get it. But yeah, I was alluding to the weather, but yeah, I mean, the kids going back to school, I mean, again, I think there are pros and cons to having kids in school. I think there are pros and cons to homeschooling.
Yeah.
So, and we talk about them all. I love the fact that I don't have the hush, the rush, the bustle of, the rush of trying to get out the door in the morning. But also, like, my kids are always here.
I do have.
They are always in need
Yes.
of something.
I do have a little more quiet time, but as far as the weather goes, super excited for that. And I
Yeah.
actually walked out yesterday at one point yesterday and was like, it feels a little different. We had like 15 minutes of something different in the air. It was
wasn't
still
quite as
hot.
humid.
It was still
Yeah.
hot. It was still, but there was like a slight breeze. I don't know, maybe we have a storm coming or something, but there was like a slight breeze and just a little bit of like that Florida fall feel, which to anyone else is just like a sauna. But to us, it's just like, hold on, something feels different.
Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up here with we are going to be sponsoring the Galapagos Conservancy. The Galapagos Conservancy protects and restores the Galapagos Islands through direct conservation action and strategic grant funding. They invest in the most urgent efforts to rewild ecosystems, save endangered species, and build a sustainable future for the islands. In 2024 alone, they tracked and bettered conditions for the native albatross, the Galapagos petrels, the pink iguana, the yellowland iguana, giant tortoises, sea lions, hammerhead sharks, and the heart of leaf sclerosis. So we're really looking forward to partnering with them to build a legacy, for future generations, that people can still enjoy these beautiful Galapagos Islands. And I felt that was just so fitting. It had been a little while since we've done a nature conservancy. Anyway, since we helped nature. So anyway, I thought this was
Help the trees.
one. Help the trees, or in this case, help the tortoises.
Help the tortoises.
So for those of you who don't know, all through the month, we are going to collect any distributions to us. So that's through our Patreon, that's through any sponsorships, and we give a portion of that directly to this nonprofit organization all through the month of September. If you are in our Patreon, know that a portion of your subscription is going this month to the Galapagos Conservancy, so that one day you can go and see those beautiful 200-year-old tortoises.
We'll stay in the hotel.
I want to. I mean, if I ever go, I want to stay in the Hotel Wittmer. Like, that's the only place I want to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. That might be on top of the Baroness. Like, she could literally be buried underneath it. Girl. You know what I mean?
The spirit of the Baroness.
I feel like she's on the island. I don't feel like she went into the water, because if she went into the water, I feel like she would have washed up. Maybe not, but I feel like she's on the island.
I don't know. There have been these rumors. So on the island, there's a lot of acacia wood.
Mm-hmm,
and you've seen this. There's a lot of like little like knick-knacky things are made out of like acacia wood. Apparently acacia wood burns very hot. Something about the composition of the wood. And some have claimed it burns hot enough to like burn bones potentially. I don't know. I think they're more than likely just buried. I think they're buried somewhere. Or hacked up and fed to sharks. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Gross. I don't know.
What a
it's
mystery.
Weird. It's all weird.
What a mystery.
What a mystery. And the fact that this family came out essentially like unscathed.
Well, and they're the ones that I thought, oh, they're not going to do well. Like, out of everybody, I was like, this is not going to end well for them. They're just she's having these babies. She's having 72-hour labors, no doctor. They're in a cave. Like, they're the ones I was like, oh, and look at what happened.
You never know. They were the sleepers in the story. They were the sleepers. Like, you didn't expect them. And then look who came out on top.
Look at that. Yeah.
Look at that. Well, thanks for being with us for our first, I guess, video recording. I hope you like seeing our real reactions here. We will be posting all the pictures of the Baroness. Everything that I can find will be posted on our social media account, primarily on Instagram. And yeah, hit us up if you know of any other cases you'd like us to cover. If Cynthia and I actually have a pretty fun lineup coming up. And then we have some really fun things coming up for Oktoberfest, which is the Dark Oak celebration of August, not of August, of October. There we go, of October of spooky season. So definitely stick around for that. We got some fun stuff coming up. So thanks for hanging in there with us. I know this is a little bit long, but hopefully it was enjoyable. You know, time flies when you're talking about fun crime stuff.
That's right. And the Baroness.
Oh, the Baroness. You're going to look, you need to go look at pictures of her.
No,
right
I did.
away.
I Googled pictures of her. She's beautiful.
Isn't she fabulous?
She's beautiful.
She really is fabulous.
Yeah.
She's all the fabulous things.
I get it. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Oh, wait. What are we doing next week?
Girl, thanks for putting me on the spot. I don't know. TBD?
Yeah. TBD, folks. All right.
I'm just keeping it a secret.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.